Jacob Hartwell watched her from the pine ridge. A woman in a worn coat dragging timber twice her weight across frozen ground. Alone in a world that had forgotten kindness. He'd ridden past every morning for 2 weeks, and every morning his chest tightened with something he'd buried beside his wife. Below him, the woman worked without pause, breath clouding in the November cold. No neighbors came, no help arrived. Just her and the half-built cabin rising stubbornly against the Montana sky. Memories struck Jacob like a blow. Margaret had wanted to build a home together before fever took her. He never did. Now a stranger was doing what he couldn't. Sarah Brennan, the town whispered. Young, determined, shaped by hardship into something fiercer than pretty. Jacob knew that look, he'd worn it once before grief had carved all expression from him. Women didn't build cabins alone in Montana territory, unless something had gone terribly wrong. His horse shifted beneath him, restless. He hesitated, torn between riding down and riding away. But he'd be back tomorrow. Watching had become ritual, the only thing that reminded him he still felt. One afternoon, Sarah looked up. Their eyes met across the valley, one breathless moment, then Jacob pulled his horse into the shadows. She returned to work, hands trembling slightly. 3 days later, the storm came. Snow fell thick, wind tearing at the canvas she'd hammered over unfinished walls. She fought the cold, panic in every motion. Hoofbeats. She spun, grabbing the rifle propped by the frame. A man emerged through the white curtain, leading a packhorse heavy with supplies. He dismounted and began unloading, nails, rope, dried beef. I don't need charity, she said. Not charity, he replied quietly. Neighborly sense. Storm'll rip that canvas clean off by midnight. And what's your price, neighbor? He looked at her then, really looked, and she saw something in his eyes that made her lower the gun. Loneliness recognized itself. Just let me work. They worked in tense silence as the storm built around them. By dark, the cabin was secured, groaning but holding. When he turned to leave, she called out, Who are you? Jacob Hartwell. Thank you, Mr. Hartwell. He nodded once and rode into the blizzard. At his ranch, his old foreman Moses watched him unsaddle. Boss, you almost smiled just now. Jacob said nothing. Moses was right. Sunday morning at Timber Creek Church was cold in more ways than one. Jacob sat in the back pew, thinking of Willow Creek and the woman building a home alone. When Sarah entered late, every head turned. Clara Whitfield's whisper cut through the murmurs, some women have no shame, building homes in isolation like that. Jacob made his decision. As the congregation filed out, he crossed the yard and nodded to Sarah, a simple gesture witnessed by everyone. Strange company you're keeping, Jacob Hartwell, Clara called. He met her gaze. Miss Brennan. Mr. Hartwell. Storm didn't take your walls down. No, it didn't. Thank you. That afternoon, Jacob rode to Willow Creek again, this time not to watch, but to help. He dismounted, picked up a saw, and met her eyes. If you'll have help, I'll lend it. She studied him, then nodded. Then you'd better know how to notch timber properly. 2 weeks passed. Walls rose. Roof frame took shape. They worked wordlessly but in rhythm. Jacob felt something in his chest loosen, something long frozen. Evenings by the fire grew familiar. One night he asked, Your husband build before? No, she said quietly. Ben was a ranch hand. Died in a range dispute. Town blamed him. I inherited the shame. Jacob nodded. Town's good at blame. The next morning, half her timber pile was gone. Jacob tracked the thieves, 3 drifters, and brought every log back. You didn't have to, she said. Yes, I did. That night he dreamed of Margaret and woke guilty. When he grew distant the next morning, Sarah saw it. Grief isn't betrayal, Jacob, she said gently. The dead don't want us dead, too. Her words cracked something open. He returned to work with new resolve. Then the blizzard came, sudden, merciless. They sealed themselves inside the unfinished cabin, huddled by the small stove, one wool blanket between them. Tell me about him, Jacob said. Ben was flawed, she answered. But kind. I loved him. He's gone, and I'm still here. That's truth. Your wife? She asked softly. Fever took her, and our baby. I waited too long for the doctor. His voice broke. I've been watching life ever since. Then stop watching, Sarah said. Start living. Jacob looked at her. Broken met broken. He kissed her, tentative, real. Warmth spread beyond the firelight. When the storm cleared, they worked differently, aware now, but careful not to name it. Rumors reached town fast. Clara Whitfield's gossip spread like frost. Jacob's horse had been seen at Sarah's property overnight. The council convened publicly. Clara's voice rang sharp, "We're concerned about your association, Mr. Hartwell. This community has standards." She's a respectable widow, Jacob said, but his voice lacked strength. Vernon Nash laughed. Respectable? Building alone? You sure that's all she's doing out there? Jacob hesitated, one heartbeat too long. And in that silence, Sarah, standing unseen by the mercantile door, heard everything. She rode home without a word. When Jacob followed, she refused to open the door. You chose their approval, she said. I choose myself. Days passed. Vernon Nash filed a false claim against her land, said Ben's debts left it unowned. She had 2 weeks to finish the cabin or lose it. Sarah worked through injury, exhaustion eating at her strength. At his ranch, Jacob drank and stared into emptiness. Moses finally spoke. You spent 2 years dead, boss. She woke you up, and now you're choosing the grave again. That night, Jacob rode to the cemetery. Snow fell on Margaret's grave. I loved you, Maggie, he whispered. But I'm still alive. You'd want that. He rode straight to town. In the saloon, he slammed Vernon's claim on the bar. These papers are lies. Ben Brennan's debts were paid, I have the receipts. Clara rose. This isn't about land. It's about decency. No, Jacob said. It's about cruelty dressed as righteousness. Sarah Brennan's worth 10 of you, Clara. You want to judge her? Judge me, too. I stand with Sarah Brennan. Silence fell, then Moses stepped forward. I'll help finish that cabin. Me too, said the blacksmith. Others followed. At dawn, Jacob led a dozen men to Willow Creek. Sarah met them, rifle ready. He dismounted. I was a coward, he said. I'm here now. All of us. She looked at him, then nodded. Then pick up a hammer. 3 days of hard work transformed Willow Creek. Walls rose, roof sealed, laughter filled the air. The town's better half had shown up. When Vernon Nash arrived with 4 hired men, the cabin stood complete. He sneered. You're trespassing on disputed land. The only trespasser here is you, Jacob said. Vernon reached for his gun. Sarah stepped forward, deed in hand. This is my home, she said firmly. And you're the one trespassing. The sheriff, watching from horseback, finally spoke. She's right. Council denied your claim yesterday. Vernon looked around and saw he'd lost. This isn't over, he muttered. Yes, Jacob said quietly. It is. That evening, lantern light filled the finished cabin. Jacob stared at the sturdy walls. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. I'm still scared. So am I, Sarah said. But we build it one day at a time, like the cabin. He took her hand. She didn't pull away. Outside, the first stars appeared. Inside, a home began. Spring came soft and green. Sarah stood at the cabin door, coffee in hand. The garden bloomed, curtains fluttered, laughter replaced silence. Jacob worked the corral while Moses and the ranch hands prepared Sunday supper. That morning they rode to church together. Some glares remained, but they didn't matter. That evening, on the porch, they spoke of the future, expanding the cabin, maybe children someday. You ever regret it? Jacob asked. Every good thing worth having comes the hard way, she said. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes. The cabin stood solid against the Montana sky, smoke curling from its chimney. Two broken hearts had built not just shelter, but something far rarer, hope made real. Together, they watched the spring rain begin. Home.